Straight off the bat, there's nothing new about the Toyota Kluger. And while its familiar specs and on-road comfort earn it points when it comes to family hauling, in this review, we're going to see if it's still enough to keep it relevant against its 7-seater SUV rivals, or if it's starting to fall behind. Stay watching to see what we've discovered. There are 3 grade levels available for the Kluger. All share the same all-wheel drive hybrid powertrain. Our test model is the mid-spec GXL grade, and it comes with a decent array of features. Its price positions it in the middle of its hybrid rivals, the Hyundai Santa Fe Elite and the Kia Sorento GT line all-wheel drive. But it should be noted that the Sorento hybrid model is only offered in one high-spec grade level, and the Kluger can't always compete when it comes to its plush features. The GXL is still fairly well specified though. You get heated and electric front seats, wireless Apple CarPlay, 3-zone climate control, as well as a large 12.3-inch multimedia display. But the full specs are in my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. To me, the Kluger is what an SUV was originally meant to look like. A big body and with enough ground clearance to still earn the tag, but it's all long lines and gently curving paneling, which makes this look sleek rather than rugged. It is large though, because it's only 2.4 centimeters shorter than its big four-wheel drive Prado cousin. Its overall look is quite handsome, and while there hasn't been any design updates, still looks relevant. The synthetic leather upholstery, interesting looking dashboard and softly padded touch points make this a very pleasant cabin to spend time in and look at. This 12.3-inch touchscreen multimedia display looks great with clear graphics, but I still like that there's heaps of traditional elements still in this car, like the physical buttons and dials, traditional gear shifter, and an analog instrument cluster. This is a forgiving space that lots of different types of drivers will find something to like in. Interestingly, you don't have a traditional transmission tunnel in this, so this floor is actually flat, which means that middle seaters get extra legroom. This front row has oodles of space available, and it's really easy SUV to get in and out of because of the wide door apertures and the fact that the front seats don't sit too high. I like that you get lots of electrical adjustments on these. You also get lumbar support on this driver's side, but both front seats do have that heat function, which is great. Overall, these seats are very well padded and quite comfortable on a longer journey. There's lots of storage options up front. You've got 2 handy shelves built into the dash, quite a large glove box, and a really deep middle console. You've also got some cubbies in this center console as well. It can be a little bit awkward when small things fall into this phone slot at the bottom, but other than that, above average for the class. I find it always really practical when you have an extendable sun visor and a sunglasses holder, because I tend to use those items quite a lot. The charging options are really good in this model. You get 2 USB-C ports, a single USB-A port, and 2 12-volt sockets. Surprisingly though, no grade gets a wireless charging pad. This shares a multimedia system with Lexus, and it's pretty straightforward to use, and I really like that the touchscreen is so responsive. You get wide Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay in this model. You do have to initially connect the CarPlay via cable though, and I like that you get built-in sat-nav too. The middle seat has lots of head and legroom available, and again is an easy row to get in and out of. My kid had no trouble with this week, and he loved having his own climate control. Other storage and amenities are pretty good for a mid-spec grade. You get 2 map pockets, 2 USB-C ports, directional air vents which are well positioned in the ceiling, reading lights, 4 drink holders, and a fold-down armrest. This middle row has 2 ISOFIX child seat mounts and 3 top tether anchor points. It is wide enough that you should be easily able to fit 3 child seats side by side. And because you have so much room in the front and middle rows, when you're fitting a rearward facing child seat, you shouldn't impede the front passenger comfort at all. Curiously, the third row has a 60-40 split, but it's quite wide back there, and that means that 2 adults can be fairly comfortable on a shorter journey. I wouldn't want to be much taller than my 168 centimeter height though. Amenities are a little bit bare back there. You get directional air vents, which again are well positioned in the ceiling, and cup holders, but that's about it. You also don't get top tether anchor points, which means that you're only getting 3 child seats in this vehicle, which might be a bummer for families. The The boot space is massive, and when all 7 seats are in use, you get 241 litres of capacity available, but that can jump up to 552 litres when the third row is stored. The level loading space makes it a really easy car to slide bigger items out, and there's a handy underfloor storage for smaller items. You also get a full-size spare tyre and a power tailgate in this model. All Kluger grades are all-wheel drives with a smooth, continuously variable transmission and share the same 2.5 litre 4-cylinder hybrid powertrain, which produces up to 184 kilowatts of power and 242 newton-meters of torque. Now, when I first saw those engine specs on paper, I was a bit underwhelmed by the outputs, but the on-road experience has proven that it's more than enough to move this big body around without it ever feeling underpowered. The Kluger may be massive, but because of the hybrid powertrain, it has an excellent combined cycle fuel usage of just 5.6 litres per 100 kilometres. And with the large 65 litre fuel tank, that gives you a theoretical driving range of up to 1,160 kilometres, and that's excellent for such a big family SUV. I am super happy with the fuel usage overall. I've done mostly open road trips this week, and a lot of them, and that's typically where hybrids are their least efficient. But I've managed a real world usage of just 5.8 litres per 100 kilometres. That is outstanding. The engine can sound like it's under pressure at times, but that actually never translates to an underwhelming power delivery. This has got stacks of power and more than holds its own when you have to overtake or head up hills. It's a really nice open roader. The steering is pretty light for such a big SUV, and it has a really good 11.4 meter turning circle, which makes this a parent's best friend when it comes to the school runs or navigating a tight city laneway, or park when you have to do all of those extracurriculars with your kids. In fact, this feels like a much smaller car than what it is, and that's really nice when you're in the city. Visibility is also good. You've got wide windows. Most of the pillars are pretty narrow, except this B pillar. I did find that I was checking my blind spots a little bit more carefully. I've enjoyed the ride comfort in this model because the suspension is pretty forgiving, that you don't notice even the bigger bumps, but it never feels like it's floating on the road, which is nice. Road noise is at a minimum. You don't really hear the engine either, so you can chat to third rowers without really having to raise your voice. It's quite nice on a longer journey. Even those usually put off by big SUVs like this aren't going to find it too troublesome to park this car. And it definitely fills out a car space, don't get me wrong, but it has a really clear reversing camera, which is great, and you get front and rear parking sensors. I do feel though that a 360-degree view camera system would have been preferred, but overall this is super easy to park despite it being so massive. The Toyota Kluger has a maximum 5-star NCAP safety rating from testing done in 2021, and it scored quite highly across all of its individual assessment scores. It only features 7 airbags though, which is pretty low for an SUV of this size, but the curtain airbags do extend to the third row. This Kluger model has all the big features that you'd expect, like blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. But it does miss out on some family-friendly safety items like side exit assist and child present alert. And the adaptive cruise control isn't as well tuned as what I would like. But overall, most of the safety tech does not intrude on daily driving, which I always appreciate. But if you're after the full safety specs, check out my full review at carsguide.com.au. The Kluger is offered with Toyota's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, but that can be up to 7 years if you service on time and with a Toyota service centre. There's a 5-year cap price servicing program, and services cost just $285, and that makes it very competitive against its rivals. Servicing intervals are also good at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, whichever occurs first. The Toyota Kluger GXL Hybrid has been the ultimate SUV this week. It fits the gear and family in comfort, the on-road handling and fuel usage are excellent, and this is a really good example of a mid-spec 7-seater that's both functional and comfortable. There's lots to satisfy here, and while there haven't been any updates, this might be a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's why it gets the score that's on your screen now. But if you're after more details, check out my full written review at carsguide.com.au. I'll see you next week.